So it's telling me that I've gone live. And let's have a look at that. Let's just get this sorted. So I'm live. Let's see how many people come across to... Who's that? Soul Rebel. Ah! We are working. Right. Everybody's coming at the body of the Kirk. So I'll wait for your arrival. I'll let everybody get their feet under the table. I mean, there would have been a time where I just wouldn't have been able to handle this. Well, a lot of the regulars. Evening, Stuart. Evening, young sir. This one seems okay. Sandra Whittam, you back. Thank you, Sandra. Michelle Gooder. Count to 10, Rev. Yeah. Breathe backwards. Ghetto defended. Yay! We shall not be defeated. We shall not be moved. Sandra Whittam. Don't want to watch Dirty Leeds lose. Dirty Leeds anyway. Well, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Sandra. But so any football supporters in the body of the Kirk, I have to be kind. Being, you know, the ranty Rev, I have to be kind. Except when they're playing Sunderland. So, what's happening with Sheffield Wednesday, Sandra? Because I keep reading all this stuff, and the newspapers are throttling it down. They don't want anybody to know what's really going on. Kaz987, wonder if it's a business line from house to cabinet in the street, but residential from there out. Oh, maybe, Kaz, yeah, maybe. Gotcha, says Rusty Mouse. Oh, Rusty Mouse, you're in the body of the Kirk this evening, live. Wonderful. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. Penny Hen, oh, Penny Hen, good to see you again. Hooray! Napoleon Bonaparte, is this you, Rev, or another repeat of stuff I missed? No, I'm genuinely live. You can see me hands, I'm genuinely live. But I'm on my screen, I'm lagging behind 3 or 4, maybe 5 seconds. Hopefully. And then it lags again. Matthew Whedon, greetings again. Welcome, Matthew. Amalia Grassi, feckin' TV playing up, pissing me off. Back again. Amalia, I'm doing my best for you. Soul Rebel, he's back, safe and sound. Right. First question I've got to ask is, did you hear, or Andy B, thank you very much. Thank you, Andy, for your continued support, of course. Did the body of the Kirk get the email that I read out from the anonymous email sender? Paris in the Philippines. Blimey, I haven't seen you in ages. He's back. It's late here in Dubai. I bet it is. Paris in the Philippines. Welcome to the body of the Kirk, young sir. Tom Harney's. Blimey, it's like playing whack-a-mole. I'm up for that, as long as we don't get arrested for it. So I'm going to ask you a question again. I'm trying to make sure that you are getting what I'm saying. Napoleon Bonaparte doesn't know whether he's on his arse or his elbow. Are you a female tennis player? Stuart, 2. That's funny. What email? I see you. Mike's Alligators. Good evening, Adrian. I hope you're well. Oh, well, I am. I'm having a bit of a heart attack at the minute, Mike's. Simply because we don't know. No. Holy Jesus. I knocked my pipe out for 20 minutes. Can YouTube can't even give me the decency. They need to pay me. Hang on, what's Terry done now? Mephistopheles. No, Rev, didn't hear you read an email. So I received an email on Friday, and I'll let everybody get their feet under the table in the body of the Kirk until we get over 100. And those coming into the Kirk, if you can smash the likes tonight, just to prove to YouTube that we managed to get started eventually, half an hour bloody late. I was only going to do 90 minutes. So I got we're 80. We'll need to get over 100 before I start, so I'm going to have to read it again. I'll tell you about the sermon while we're waiting. So, council orders the removal of the cross of St. George. Actually, it's a Templar flag. So, the cross of St. George was a Templar. people go, oh no, he was born in Palestine. No, it doesn't matter. He was a Knight Templar. Don't you understand, you thick, caring, understanding 90s type? He was a Knight Templar. If you don't know anything about the Knight Templars, then maybe you should do your research. So, our national flag, white background, red cross, is Templar. Just saying, in case you didn't know. So the council orders the removal of the cross of St. George. That's what people euphemistically call it, so everybody knows what it's called. It's a Templar flag. So their tunics were white with the red cross of the Beatitudes, the 8 Beatitudes in the cross. That, what we have, is a Templar flag for England. And I told you before, the money in the square mile in London, it's Templar money. It's old money. It's Templar, which is why they won't tell you how much is in there. And technically, the square mile in London, the city of London, it's not under the normal jurisdiction. It's its own city. It's its own domain. Has its own police force and everything. Not that they're very good, but they have their own police force. I was going to mention the Ukraine Battenberg Laundering Committee, because that's what went out to Washington. Why? Can I ask you a question? Why did the Europeans go and hold Sniffy's hand? Sniffy, get your best suit. Look, you've had bloody millions out of us. Hundreds and hundreds. In fact, you've had billions out of us. You've trousered billions. So buy yourself a fucking suit. Take your missus to Paris. They make nice suits there. Italian suits are better than French. But buy yourself a nice suit while your wife's in there spunking 6 million of our pounds to buy yourself a new Bugatti and handbags and Louboutins. I want to do what's put the great in Britain. Because I sat down and had a thought this afternoon that, you know, all this stuff's going on and people are saying, oh, we're going to have civil war. No, we're not. No, we're not. Because that's what they want. Because remember, the jibber jabber and all the lies we had around Charlie 19, they put emergency powers in place. So that's what they want. They want civil unrest in this country so they can lock us down and put emergency powers in place so that you and I can't do anything other than stay at home, watch YouTube and scratch our ass. I want to talk about Charlie 19. See how I dovetailed into that? I want to talk about Charlie 19. Going to talk about the data. Going to have a look at Lucy Letby. Oh, I say, there's an update. It's coming. Let's talk about Israel. The truth in Vegas. So, which one of the Israelis got caught wanting to shag kids in Vegas? I bet you won't read about that, Becca, in the mainstream media. No, but I'll tell you, there was an Israeli caught in Vegas. Purloining kids, little girls, to shag while he was in Vegas. He's gotten out of America pretty damn quick. We'll talk about the 6 central banks. You know, I keep going on about this. The 6 central banks that the Rothschilds want. And I keep telling you which countries to look at when they come into the news cycle. Keep watching, because one of them is just hitting the news today. Well, it's not the kind of news that you watch. You watch this, I know, and you get the real news, the real truth here. Maybe that's why we're lagging. But I'm going to tell you about the EU. They're at it. Who would it be, Adrian? And if we get a chance to do it, we'll do the top 25 shows of the last 25 years. If we don't get all of that in, because there was stuff last night, and I will apologise now that everybody's in the body of the Kirk. I apologise because it was a schoolboy error. I just didn't plug my phone in before I started the live, and then sure enough, oh dear. So I apologise. I was distraught because I was just warming up nicely. I was just getting into me flow, and I was getting into me flow about the EU and money and corruption and all that kind of malarkey. So we're going to do that tonight. I see who says they're all at it, perverts. This one is. Oof, he's got out of Vegas pretty damn quick because the cops wanted to put hands on Adam Whale. He's alive, I tell thee, he's alive. Mephistopheles, staggering how and why we are still tolerating this invasion. Correct. But I will tell you that that's what they're after. That's what they want. They want civil unrest in this country so they can lock us down and let certain other communities just roam freely. Napoleon Bonaparte. Add more water, Rev. I can't water down my hibiscus. No! Sacrilege. Hang on. Stuart says, at the Uber, she deserves a medal. Right. Do you want me to do this again? Mephistopheles, roll Britannia. No man left behind, so to speak. I see you, as Soul Rebel says. And Top of 69, evening, Adrian, and all you utter wrong-uns of the Kirk. So, I'll do it again, then. Bloody thing. Oh, Charles the Week's not around. What's going on with him? Right, I'm going to ask you a question while I get my notes up. So you're here, and you're watching. Interesting. Stay off the alcohol. It doesn't serve you. Alcoholism is a disease. Stay off it. So, question one, before we get into the kind of predictional email that somebody sent, an anonymous email was sent to me on Friday. Question one, and remember, when we do these questions, it's 1 for yes, 2 for no. Agincourt. The French will know, if they were around for Agincourt. So 1 for yes, 2 for no. So, question one for tonight. There's a little bit of reportage in the mainstream media about Huw Edwards. And they're a bit upset that he hasn't paid the BBC the 200 grand back that he was paid whilst he was on gardening leave. Question: should Huw Edwards pay the BBC the 200 grand back? Or should we just move on? Oh, just here, keep it. Filth, just keep it. Grubby little man, keep it. But I want to know from you. Should Huw Edwards pay the BBC 200 grand back? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Sam says all financial fraud is dealt with in the City of London. That's action fraud is dealt with there. City of London police are the lead on action fraud. Should Huw Edwards pay the BBC the 200 grand back? Terry Wookford. Let the Beeb take him to court. Disclosure should be fun finding out what the Beeb knew and when. Why don't we? In fact, why don't we tell the BBC? Take that fecker to court and find out what your investigation, your Newsnight investigation came up with. Your internal investigation into Huw Edwards the pervert. And let's find out what the BBC knew and when. I agree with Wookford, Lord Wookford, completely. Les Griffith says, if it was in his contract and he received it, that's down to the BBC. That is a point. Thank you, Les. That is a point. Nicky Watson's apologised. I wasn't meant to press 2. A Bad Wolf Project. Sue the BBC. Where have I heard that before? No, not us. We're not suing the BBC. How do we shake, man? No, let the BBC do what they need to do. Get that 200 grand back, but it'll cost them more in legal fees to get the 200 grand back. I think they should divulge all the data from all the things and all the stuff that involved Huw Edwards of the BBC. You know, like the inquiry with the Savile inquiry. Was it Utree? The inquiry into Savile and others, Rolf Harris and others, time at the BBC, which found that Jimmy Savile had raped an 8-year-old girl on BBC premises. That came out in the inquiry, but what the mainstream media focused on was, Tony Blackburn kissed a 16-year-old girl back in the 60s. See how they do it? So they're not going to sue Huw Edwards because it'll cost them more than 200 grand to sue him to get the money back. And they'll be scared that the truth will actually come out. It might do for the BBC. But I was interested. Thank you, Rusty Mouse. I was interested to see what everybody thought about it. If he doesn't, then Top Brass, who paid him, should have it taken from them. Oh, Cuban Pete, loving your style. So thank you for that. Pretty much 90% from everyone. Let me get to my notes. And it's that one, that's that one. Fatal Racing Driver, and that one, and that one. And, oh, bugger me. Right, this is going to be interesting. Let's see what I've saved it as. And no, it's not that one. Oh, there it is. Yes, it is. So this email arrived in my inbox on Friday. And considering that Trump and Putin hadn't met at that point, Sniffy hadn't gone to Washington, D.C. with all of his European mates today for a meeting. So there's 2 points in this email that I want you to pay attention for, because this anonymous email, it needs to give me the lottery numbers for Saturday, because we'll both be multi-millionaires. Because within this email, there are 2 predictions, and both of these predictions are literally word for word. So I was watching the conference with the press conference with Trump and with Sniffy, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Couldn't believe it. And then the press started taking the mickey out of Sniffy for something, which I'll reveal in a moment. So Trump says, so this is from the anonymous emailer, which I trust impeccably his judgment on things. So Trump says the best way forward for Ukraine is a permanent peace agreement rather than a temporary ceasefire. Remember what that was? Trump says the best way forward for Ukraine is a permanent peace agreement rather than via a temporary ceasefire. This was written, I'm presuming, Thursday night, before any meetings had taken place. Looks like the Russian economic teams told the Yanks further sanctions will only hurt the Americans and the Europeans. Mind you, something the UK papers aren't carrying is Scott Bessant's reply to Merz, that's the head of Germany, and the German economy is tanking. It's not the first time the Germans are being buggered by their tanks. Merz is calling for more sanctions before the talks started. He stated if the Europeans wanted sanctions, then, this is Donald Trump, then just go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it. If they wanted to, but be careful, because any sanctions didn't backfire. Be careful that any sanctions didn't backfire on the EU like previous sanctions had. Oh, almost inadmission sanctions so far haven't done anything to Russia. Mind, it has kind of destroyed Germany's economy. Germany being the main source of EU funds. Doesn't look good, does it? No. In the words of the Chinese philosopher, they're fact. Zelensky has been summoned and Trump will tell him, go for Istanbul Plus. Now, Istanbul Plus is going to be the negotiation and the paper that came out of those negotiations. Trump will tell Zelensky, go for Istanbul Plus now while you still have a country. The longer the war goes on, the less of Ukraine, both in manpower and territory, they will end up with. Oh, by the way, just a funny. If when he goes to Washington, Zelensky is wearing a suit, it's over. If he's wearing his usual designer combats, then he's gone with the Euro plan to fight on. So let me just pull the curtains apart, and Zelensky was wearing a suit today. In fact, some of the press corps were taking the mickey out of him. Oh, El Presidente, you've got a suit on, you wrong'un. What does that mean? Off to Vegas with the wife? Or are you back over to Paris for another Bugatti for the wife? So everyone's saying Trump got nothing out of the talks this weekend. That's complete and utter bollocks. Trump gets to walk away from Ukraine, whether peace is agreed or not. If Ukraine refuses to negotiate properly with the Russians to end the war, Trump can say, it wasn't my war, it was Biden's. I'm going to read that to you again. Why is that? Because they were the exact words that came out of Donald Trump's mouth this afternoon at the press conference. I'll say it again. Everyone is saying Trump got nothing out of the talks. That is complete and utter bollocks. Trump gets to walk away from Ukraine whether peace is agreed or not. And if Ukraine refuses to negotiate properly with the Russians to end the war, Trump can say, and this is what he said this afternoon in the press conference, and this email was sent on Thursday night. It wasn't my war, it was Biden's. I tried to solve it. The Ukraine and the EU have rejected all efforts to sort it and bring peace. So, let's leave them to it. Oi, Vladimir, President Putin, bomb the feck out of them, teach them a lesson. Oh, and Germany and France. Oh, honestly, just one bomb with the French. They've got no backbone, no spine, no fighting. The Italians, bloody hell, they've got heels on the front of their shoes, the Italians. We're the only decent fighting force in Europe, and we're not in Europe. But then again, you know, Starmer the Harmer, Queer Starmer. Couldn't see my lips move. Queer as folk, Starmer. It wasn't my war, it was Biden's. Out of the Trump's mouth this afternoon. Zelensky says he and Trump discussed Ukraine security guarantee in best talks yet. I'm sure they were. Did you take a bag of gear with you? So this kind of undermines Lindsey Graham and the rest of the US neocons who didn't want peace. Bearing in mind, Graham has just been a smiling assassin for Trump since 2016, pretending to be a friend, but stabbing him in the back at every chance. Interestingly, it couldn't come at a worse time for Graham. He will be getting primaried this year. His main opponent is much closer to the Trump base, so I think Graham is gone. Don't think Trump will endorse anyone in that one, but you never know. Graham may give him an excuse either way. So, if Zelensky listens to Trump and goes for Istanbul Plus, which evidently that's what's happened this afternoon. Remember, this email came into my inbox on Friday. We will see him hand over power or be removed. So this afternoon in the press conference, and again, this email has predicted it, one of the press corps said, President Zelensky, will there be elections in Ukraine? And he said, oh, yes. And will you be standing aside? If there's elections, he will be removed. And as the anonymous emailer goes on, could be a very terminal removal if you catch my drift. Or he could pack his cases and move to France very soon. Told you, province is lovely, any time of the year. So it should be interesting how Starmer and the EU leaders sell this to their relevant electorates. Oh, I was on my private jet and I was on my way to Washington. Yes, a couple of hours out, a couple of hours back. Yes, not a problem. It's not Concorde, but it'll do. And he's given. I'm a head of state. I can have planes and automobiles. This boy is just Johnny Big Bollocks. He thinks that the taxpayer should be supporting him in all of his excess. Extra $100,000 a year. Well, that's what we know of in freebies. So Starmer has already started the damage limitation with the Trump's actions have brought peace closer than ever. Nice. Kiss ass. Must be galling for him. All that money wasted, especially if peace is negotiated and the war ends relatively soon. There will be no Ukrainian government in exile to siphon more money from us. No doubt rebuilding Ukraine will be the next launderette for our money. So, what was really gained? Trump was shown the true state of what's really going on in Ukraine. Trump and Putin will be holding further talks. They had the talks on Friday. They'll be having more talks. Putin says in Moscow. And the Trump says, oof, I'll be getting it tight for that. But Trump and Putin will be holding further talks. America will get access to Russian rare earth minerals. Some of them in the new Russian territories of the Donbass. But also a lot of stuff from Mother Russia itself. Strategic arms limitation talks, trade deals, but probably the most important thing for Trump, cast iron guarantees the Russians won't use their economy as a basis for world reserve currency. BRICS, anyone? And the rest of the world, that is, in direct competition with the dollar. The Western press won't tell us that, though, because it totally undermines the narrative about the US and EU sanctions destroying the Russian economy. Now, according to the press, the Russian economy is on the verge of collapse. They seem to ignore Russia is still selling the EU energy directly and indirectly increased energy provision to India, China, most of the Asian world, including Japan. So, prediction. Watch out for the next couple of years. Increased European interference or concerns about Moldova, Transnistria, and big bad Russia won't stop at Ukraine will be the story. So the press is going to go big bad Russia, big bad Russia. But what the Trump is doing, the Donald, the orange man, President of America, 47, what he's doing is He's making sure that Russia is no longer the big bad wolf. That America and Russia are friends. So the press have had it. Because the press are corrupt. I've told you before. Don't believe anything you read in the press. I'm kind of looking down there because that's where my papers are. Don't believe anything you read in the press except the price on the front, because they never get that wrong. Thank you to that anonymous emailer who, honestly, I want the weekend's lottery numbers out of you. Because you seem to have foresight. Talking to 9/11. Les Griffiths, yeah, they got to defend the king. Hang on a second, what's that? A bad wolf. All of my criticism of Europe is aimed at the political class, not the people. Agreed, Les. Agreed, Les. Napoleon Blown Apart says, Donald is good at pushing square pegs into round holes. Apparently. More lube. Napoleon Blown Apart. So, thank you to the anonymous emailer. I am going to... Where are we? Oh, right, okay. I sat down this afternoon and we can interact with this. Because I want you to tell me via the comments whether this is accurate or not. Because I posed myself the question, who are we? Who are we? Who are we? Sound like a Chinese car. We are the great British public. Now, whether you know a little Englander, whether you prefer us to be on our Todd, but we are entwined with the Scots, the Welsh and the Northern Irish, and the Southern Irish for that matter. And I just thought, how do we define the great in Britain? So the great British public is often defined by a set of shared values and principles that reflect the nation's history, culture, but more importantly, democratic traditions. And there's nothing wrong with our history, our culture, and democratic traditions. But I'll ask you a question. What are we? What values and principles put the great in Britain? So obviously, whilst some individuals may differ in their beliefs, some commonly celebrated British values include, and I'm going to go through them. So this is what I came up with. Wookfit says, I'm English first, British second, I live in Scotland, that makes me great. Brilliant, Lord Wookfit. The lion is starting to roar, I agree, Rusty Mats. And Cuban Pete, better together. Is that at the same time? Is that a technical term? Les Griffith says, we are an embarrassment to our ancestors. That's what we are, a nation of sheeple, and I am done pretending otherwise. Good point, Les. Stuart says, Sky News, Trump greets European leaders for family photo after Zelensky meeting. So he's got to keep them on side. Trump's got to take them with him, because all these leaders, what exactly were they doing in Washington? Ursula von der Leyen, bitch. What was Starmer and Macron and everybody else? Why were the Europeans with Zelensky? Is that because they're making a shit ton of money being laundered through Ukraine, and they didn't want to see that particular gravy train leave the station without them? Who knows? Who knows? But I'm going to put to you some values and principles that put the great back in Britain. Firstly, and I've alluded to this, Andrew James says, we will be the great homeless. That's a very, very valid point. So I'm going to start with democracy and the rule of law. Whether we're English or Scots or Welsh or Northern Irish, the British have a respect for democratic institutions and the right to free and fair elections. Although I'm not sure about the last bit, free and fair elections, whether they continue. But we as Great Britons have a belief in the rule of law where everyone is equal before it, including government and public officials. Okay, you may have an argument that some of it is up for argument, but first principle that makes the values and principles that make us Great Britain, the first principle is democracy and the rule of law. I think that's pretty much a given. Les Griffith says, when the Russian-Ukraine peace deal is signed, Sniffy's generals will top him to cover their tracks. Of course they will. They're not going to want the rest of the world to see how corrupt Ukraine is. And the politicians won't. The politicians will be hiring, well, we know what war is. You know what the first casualty of war is, don't you? I've said this to you many times. The truth. So they're not going to want corruption to be highlighted or put under scrutiny in Ukraine. So it will be sanitized. However that is, and with whomever that is, Ukraine will be sanitized for the benefit of all the politicians. Interesting. So the second, I've said this to you before, the second thing that I came up with was fairness and tolerance. So first principle, democracy and the rule of law, the mother of all parliaments. Second, fairness and tolerance. We're a very tolerant nation. We're a tradition of fairness, justice, and equality of opportunity. You could say we're a multicultural society that, in principle, values tolerance, respect, and inclusivity. I don't think the Brits, the English, Welsh, Scots, Irish, Northern Irish, are intolerant of anybody else. It's only when other people are intolerant of us and don't respect the Great Britain. And we're allowing inclusivity, but it's when other people are not inclusive of us or integrate. So then I thought, considering what we've been through over the last year or so, freedom of speech and, more importantly, individual liberty. So the Great Britain has a strong belief in free expression. Doesn't matter whether you're a potty mouth, doesn't matter whether your Tourette's are kicking in and you're swearing your head off. And even if you've had 10 pints, we still believe in freedom of speech and individual liberty. So there's a strong, a bit like Blackpool Rock. You cut it in half, you get Blackpool. You cut Britain in half, there will be a strong belief in free expression. Whether it's social media or Hyde Park Corner, freedom of expression, open debate. And the most important principle that I think we hold dear is the right to dissent. There's the protection of civil liberties within the bounds of the law. So when we see something that affects individual liberty and is included with freedom of speech, that's why the country's kicking off, because we're Great Britons. And what principle puts the great in Britain? Freedom of speech and individual liberty. So if you're putting someone in jail for 31 months, and fingers crossed Lucy's getting out this week, from what they're saying in the press, but the press are not really covering it for obvious reasons. And it's those protection of civil liberties, just banging people up because Herr Starmer has said, oh, just bang them up in jail. Stuff it, just bang them up. I work for the CPS, mate. I was the director of public prosecution, and my mother worked in the NHS, and my dad's a toolmaker. Well, I thought he was a comedian, your father, because you're a fucking joke. Actually, I'll use that one regularly. And if anybody nicks it, you know where it's come from. The other thing, there's about 10 points. The other thing that principle and value that puts the great in Britain is community spirit and decency. I mean, I would suggest that we talk about it often, and it is there, the famous Blitz spirit, resilience, solidarity, and pulling together in tough times. And that's not a euphemism before you start. The Great Britain, is polite, courteous, and has a sense of fair play in daily life. I'm sure you'll agree with this. Politeness, courtesy, and a sense of fair play in daily life. That's us, Great Britain. The other, something a little bit more deep, is pragmatism and common sense. So, not stoicism as such, but common sense. Because you'll know adults are like they haven't got the bloody common sense they were born with, or the sense they were born with. And that pragmatism goes along with the community spirit and decency. Second World War. Because even though I will guarantee you that your grandparents, if they were living through the war, would have been, when the air raid sirens were going off, they would have been scared witless. none of this, but that stoicism, that pragmatism, that common sense. People were just helping everybody else out. Everybody was in it together, so everybody helped each other. And that's why divide and rule is ruining our national identity. It's ruining our community spirit. It's ruining our decency, because we can see the politicians doing stuff. We feel helpless in saying, no, 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 we don't want that. The politicians don't care. They don't care whether you live or die. They don't. So long as they have the power, so long as they can have free jets to go from London to Washington, DC, have the meeting and fly back, and they can have meetings in their nice, comfy chairs in the private airplanes. It's corrupt. And one of the other things that ties in with community spirit and pragmatism and common sense is a respect for our tradition with progressive change. And the reason why I wrote it that way is because, you know, this country, good or bad, this country isn't the way it was after the Second World War. Rationing was still, was it 1954 when rationing ended? Nearly 10 years. 1945 the war ended, 9 number, 4-5, and then it got to 54, 9 number. But this respect for tradition, we're not interested in change for change's sake. We like to feel progressive change, but we still like the tradition of going to our seaside, of having the ice cream and the candy rock and all the things that maybe our fathers, mothers, grandparents did when they were our age. It's that tradition, that cohesion, and the progressive change. We don't mind progressive change, we just don't want corrupt change. And that change being forced on us when we still have strong ties to our own tradition. So if you think about it, we have pride in British history, institutions, NHS, monarchy, the mother of all parliament if you want, and cultural heritage. It all makes us the Great Britain. And then within that, we balance tradition with a gradual social progress. Now, it doesn't matter how fast it is, it's just gradual change. So if you look at the last 50 years from the 70s, I mean, that's the, I've just seen it out of the corner. Oh, man. Right, I've got it back, but I do believe. Can somebody just ping, ping in the comments that you're actually hearing me again? It's 8:31. Has it come back? Can you hear me? Can you hear what I'm saying? Terry Wookford says it's cyclical. Hard times are coming. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. It's all cyclical. Great quote, Lord Wookford. Napoleon blown apart. My mother still used a ration book for meat and butter when I was a kid in the early 60s. Fantastic. I mean, it's a... oh, yeah, right, you can hear me. Okay. Let me just bring that back up. Where was I? Yeah. So I think that Great Britain has a very astute and brilliant way of balancing that tradition with gradual social progress. So what I was going to do was I was going to contrast and compare the early 70s with now. So the early 70s, racially, you could say anything that you want, and the Britain laughed. Sexually, you couldn't say anything because it was just too out there. We were the Brit was known around the world, especially by the Swedes, as being repressed. Oh no, they probably light off Saturday night, pull me 90 down when you're finished. As when the rest of the world was just dancing like Billy O. But it was that racially, because of that integration, you could say anything. Alf Garnett as the example. But now, sexually, you can literally say anything you want and people don't bat an eyelid. Example, Bonnie Blue. She's at it every bloody day. I mean, euphemistically at it every day. I'm not quite sure what she does in her private life. Retro Video says, I think us older people have a sense of patriotism and would rise to the occasion, speak for yourself at my age, if needed. But the younger people today have... The younger people today, I doubt, will have the same sense of loyalty. They are washed in woke. Very good point. Very good point. The O'Bovril, we stayed on rationing because we fed Germany for several years after the war. And what thanks did we get for it? FA. That's not footy either. So the other thing that I believe makes the Great Britain is compassion and the welfare state. Now, you don't need me to tell you about our national support for the NHS and the idea that healthcare should be free at the point of use. It's ingrained in us as Great Britons. Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and England. It is ingrained in us, our beloved NHS. And there is also within the Great Britain a general belief in a safety net for those in need, though debates exist over its extent. Some people just want a shit ton of money for doing absolutely bugger all and slacking, but other people find themselves struggling and just want the odd penny or two just to tide them over while they sort things out. Nicholas says, a young couple couldn't believe I walked 15 minutes with a watering can of soapy water to clean up our puppy's plop on the path outside their house. I said, who wouldn't? Nicholas is correct. It's about standards. But also we have compassion for our fellow man and woman. It's ingrained in the Great Britain. That's why we're called Great Britain. Because of these principles and values that are ingrained in us, that we just know are there. Standards, as Nicholas said. Manners maketh man is the old epithet. So, and I said, the reason why I'm doing this is to give a sense of, St. George's Day is not till next April, but it's just a sense of who we are. And I just sat down for a little while, just working out who we are, me and you, what we have within us. Now, as well as the compassion that, if say an old girl falls over in the street, nobody just walks past and forgets her. There's always good folk with good hearts will go and make sure she's okay. You know, maybe get her a drink of water from somewhere, just get her to sit down and just take a 5 minute, because shock invariably does more damage than just physically falling over. We care about our fellow Brit. We don't care for people that take the piss out of us. That includes the politicians, but it's that compassion and our love for our welfare state, which is the envy of the world. I mentioned stoicism a little earlier. We have this lion heart, as Richard nearly beat Saladin for Jerusalem back in the 1200s. Richard the Lionheart. We are known as lion-hearted people in Great Britain. That puts the great in Britain. So this stoicism and resilience, it's, how would I define it? It's the ability to keep calm and carry on. Because, you know, the flamboyant French or the flamboyant Italians, they'll panic at the least little thing. But we Brits just, keep calm, carry on in adversity. That's us. That literally defines us. That's the whole of us, the Great Britain. And we love an understatement. We love understating and avoiding excessive emotional displays. The stiff upper lip, if you wish. But even though the great British stiff upper lip is evolving, and we are more in touch with, it's 2025, so obviously things are going to evolve. We are more in touch with our emotions and who we are as individuals, as families, as communities, but more importantly, for the moment in 2025, as a nation. Because people will point fingers and accuse other people of certain things. Doesn't matter their skin tone, doesn't matter where they're from, people will always point fingers. The xenophobia has always been there. But then can you remember Mind Your Language? I'm sure you're old enough to remember Mind Your Language from the 70s, where it was multicultural. You had the Indians, the Pakistanis, who were always fighting, and they're still fighting. They're both nuclear countries. And they're still fighting. Ad nauseum. It's been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But you had you had the French, and you had some of the thick English, the Cockneys. You had all of that, and it was just a wonderful melting pot. And I was having a discussion earlier today about gentle humour it doesn't have to be all the current comedians are. There's a lot of crassness. There's a lot of edge to modern comedians. But I'm ever so thankful that I'm even just talking to someone who has the most amazing talent and is very reverential and respectful of one of our greatest comedians. I'm talking Bob Monkhouse. And I said to him, you know, for my lord, thank you, Cuban Pete. I did say to him today, I said, is it because we still respect gentle humour like Tommy Cooper and Bob Monkhouse? I mean, it was a shock to people to find that Bob Monkhouse was actually quite blue. There's a word you've not heard for a long time, apart from Bonnie Blue, which had completely different connotations. But the blue comedian was always Chubby Brown. He was a blue comedian, and everybody went, oh, he's just a bit blue, a bit mucky. Told very naughty gags. But Monkhouse could sit with the best of them, with the bluest of comedians, but at the same time he was welcomed into family homes. Eric Morecambe, I'm sure, was exactly the same. Could tell the odd ribald gag, but we loved him. Bob Monkhouse, Tommy Cooper, Eric Morecambe, national treasures. So stoicism and resilience sits with the, as I say, keep calm and carry on, the gentle humour of yesteryear, and understatement and avoiding excess emotional displays. But then, if you really want to know what the Great Britain is all about, and there is a reason why I'm doing this tonight, I'm not going to elaborate or go on more about this until I've virtually finished. But in the coming nights, I'm going to do other things, because I think it's very disingenuous for left wing to turn around and label everything hate speech. So people will hear what I say, but they don't listen because of their own filters. They, the left, are as bigoted as anybody else. We see in the world how bigoted communism, Marxism is because of what happened in America. Look at how America is now, like 6 months after one man gets elected as president. And look at how shit the last president was. Pun intended. So the left-wing politics is finished. It's over. It's done. The Great Britain wants common sense, stoicism, a reflection of who we are as a collective, not what the politics and politicians deem they want us to accept. No. And the left, just go and haul yourself off into the sea and disappear. Because the left has no place, none whatsoever. Because the left has fucked this country royally. Look at Blair. Look at that fucking deviant cunt. Charles Linton, Bow Street Magistrates. People go, oh yeah, and don't get me started on fucking Gordon Brown. The left. They are evil. Evil, evil, pernicious, nasty, grubby little fuckers. Leave us to ourselves. Leave us to be the Great Britons. Leave us to know who we are. And you, fuck off and die. Article 10, European Convention for Human Rights. But because this is the body of the Kirk, Article 9 covers everything that I say. So, the reason why I've said that is because the Great Britain has a suspicion of extremism and moderation. So how can I wrap that up for you? Well, the Great Britain has a general distrust of political and ideological extremism in favour of compromise. Let's look at lockdowns. Now, there will be people that are watching this that took the jibber jabber and the boosters, but now they're finding that their health's not great. So where was the truth from the right-wing political party that was in power at the time? Because there's no such thing as democracy in this country. They give you a choice, left or right, red or blue, up or down, in or out. I didn't want the in or out because it proved to me that I was being fucked by the government. And we distrust political or ideological extremism. We're not going to compromise. We've woken up. The last 5 years, we've seen right through it. So we have a right-wing political party, and look what they did to the country. Look at how much money they thieved. I've only got 2 words to give to you to prove that. It's Michelle Mone. She's in bloody Florida, as far as I'm concerned. So the right-wing political parties have shafted us for money. Remember, Rich Boy Sunak, he was handing out like confetti licenses to drill in the North Sea. And then Ed Millipede comes out and goes, yeah, right lads, no, we're going to stop you. Going to stop you. The left is evil. It's evil. But then again, so was the right wing. So as I say to you, you cannot trust the parasitical classes. You can't trust anybody that has ideological wokeness shoved right up their derriere. Doesn't matter if it's left or right, it's still going to shaft you. It doesn't matter which boot is on your neck, it's still the government stamping on your neck and doing you... Look, I'll give you an example. Sir Keir Starmer wants your children, your grandchildren, boots on the ground in Ukraine. Why is that? Donald Trump, now some people might hate him, and he's saved your children and your grandchildren from being the boots on the ground in Ukraine. Some people have been so conditioned, as the Matrix says, they've been so conditioned by the Matrix that they will fight tooth and nail to protect the prison that's around them. And they don't even know they're in prison. Whether it be intellectually, whether it be ideologically. Thank you, Napoleon. Napoleon Bonaparte. Thank you very much. Do appreciate, and everybody that does the super likes and the super thanks and stuff. I do appreciate everybody that continues to support the channel. It means a lot. So I this is a personal view, but that's why I wanted to do this afternoon. I sat down for quite a while and just tried to give you the essence of who we are. So this suspicion of extremism and moderation, I do believe that the Great Britain has a preference for gradual reform over radical revolution. Everybody's talking about, they can feel it, this tinderbox feeling of this Great Britain. Well, all of the political parties, all of the political classes, they're killing us off. Me and you, I didn't take the jibber jabber. I wasn't so stupid. I was lucky, but I wasn't stupid. And I'm not judging anybody on this channel. I am frustrated that people with intellect are unable to use that intellect for the benefit of the greater good. I mean, you can look at the politicians that have come out of Liverpool. Now, I'm having an argument with a dear friend of mine. And I said to him, Starmer hates the Scousers. He hates Liverpool. And he said, oh, where have you heard that? I said, I've got the fucking audio. Oh, have you? Well, haven't you heard it? Haven't you done your research? No. And you're a Labour Party supporter? So your glorious leader hates the Scousers and hates Liverpool. I've got the audio. I'll post it on X for you if you want. This is the left-wing party. So it doesn't matter whether it's the Blues, the Tories, or whether it's the Reds and the Labour, or whether it's the Lib Dems, whether it's the Greens, or any other colour. They're just after the power. They don't give a flying about you. They'd rather you were dead. And when I look at politicians, the mealy-mouthed fuckers, that just, oh yes, and there's Starmer flying on a private jet that the hard-working taxpayers of this country has paid for. Fat Lammy's gastric band, Jesus, Mr. Creosote. How much weight has he lost? Zempic? Anyone? So this fair play and justice that runs through all, in my view, the Great Britain, it's this preference for gradual reform over radical revolution. We don't want to have to take to the streets. We don't want to have to say to the politicians, no more. Enough. We've had enough. Because the politicians are not going to listen. Oh, Nicholas, thank you. Tell your followers, Adrian, to Google British ambassador to the United States. Oh, that'll be Mandy then, because they're upset with him in the press today. Little Mandy. So, again, I'm boiling down the essence of the Great Britain. Politics is finished in this country. Doesn't matter if Jeremy Corbyn is going to do an ultra left-wing political party. Politics is finished. It's over. We don't trust them anymore. They've shafted us for 5 years. We had what we thought was the worst evil in the world. And then all of a sudden, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Nikki. Your first super chat I've done. I appreciate the work you put in. Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate your support. And just being here is enough for me. I do this so that we can get some kind of message out. And it's not a political message. It's not an ideological message. It's a common sense message. That's why I wanted to identify, or try to identify, with my limited intellect, what the Great Britain is and means. So let me kind of round this off. You've had all the varying bits and pieces. But what I believe makes the Great Britain and defines the Great Britain is national pride without jingoism. Now, what am I talking about? You've seen some of the other communities from the last 80 or 90 years and their jingoism. And that patriotism often focuses on symbols. So do we say sports or the monarchy or history rather than aggressive nationalism? And I believe that's the difference between the Great Britain and any other community or country around the world. What we have is a national pride without jingoism. It may focus on symbols, whether it's your footy team or the monarchy or the history of this sceptred isle. We've had kings for over 1100 years, back to Athelstan and Alfred the Great in the 900s, and then the Templars in the 10s, the 11s, the 1200s. We have a fantastic history in this country. But you know what it is? We have a great history, symbolic history, rather than aggressive nationalism that may have come out of Nazi Germany or may have come out of other countries, or the Ottomans and the Turks and the other nationalism 100 years ago. World War One, I believe, was only brought into existence because they wanted to get rid of the Ottoman Empire, because it was running the world. Never mind the British Empire, the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire out of Turkey. So I think, again, what defines a Great Britain is criticism of the country when needed, but underlying affection for its identity. So it's a bit like, I loved my mum to bits. She's not around anymore, but I loved my mum to bits. But I would take the piss out of her mercilessly. I mean, I would go to other family do saying, oh, you know, mum's struggling. Oh, why? What's wrong? Well, she's had a bit too much of the sauce. And then my mother would walk in the room sober as a judge, and my family members would go, you told me she was shitted. I said, oh, she covers it all well. But you know something? I mean, mum used to laugh. But if anybody else criticised my mother, oi, 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 there'd be murders on. And it's exactly the same with our country. We love our country, the Great Britain. Our country defines us, and we, more importantly, define our country. Empathetic, compassionate, national pride, a belief in fair play, a belief in the rule of law. We believe in all that, but we can criticise. We can criticise the courts, the judges, the Southport situation. We can criticise all of that, and we believe in that free speech for everyone. But at the minute, and that is when it's needed, when it's appropriate and proportionate. But the minute that our government, as they have, turn on its citizens, the first rule of governance is you protect the people, not turn on them just so you can go flying around the world in private jets. Nice. But we, the Great Britain, have an underlying affection for its identity, all of our identity, whether it's our sports, our monarchy, our history, our traditions, our culture, everything. But importantly, these values are not fixed, and they continue to evolve with societal changes, but they broadly represent what many consider the defining ethos of the Great British public. And I hope you don't mind me doing that. I just wanted to kind of put there for us, because there's a lot of, I believe, where we're going this summer and possibly in the autumn, we're going to have a lot of fingers pointed at us, and they're going to tell us jingoistic, xenophobic, racist Britain, broken Britain. And it's not. Thank you, Stuart. I really appreciate it. It's not. We're not broken. We're just sick and tired, and enough is enough. We're looking for a way, with common sense and understanding and respect for our country and our traditions and our history, with respect for all of that, because we love our country. Now, don't point the finger at me and go, oh, bloody hell, Adrian, are you one of these right-wing nutters? No, not at all. I've just explained to you in very simple terms what being a Great Britain is all about. And those with a lack of intellectual rigour, not understanding that, because they themselves might be a Great Britain. And all we want is our politicians' first rule of governance: protect the people. Sorry, Soul Rebel. Where's Pete? So, I do believe it's divide and rule in this country, because the right-wing politicians who, remember Starmer, crossed the floor of the House to speak with Nigel Farage, they're all the same. They're the parasitical classes. And that's where our problems are all emanating from. They're the rule makers, they're the law makers, but they're also the law breakers. They just make rules up to suit themselves. But it is vitally important that we, the Great Britain, understand who we are. There's no getting away from it. I've said to you before, we are the greatest fighting force on planet Earth. And we do it with humour. Ask any of the special forces. The Americans don't get our irony. They think we're all mad. But the special forces, you've got to have a sense of humour. If you don't have a sense of humour, they won't let you in the regiment. And I said earlier, it's this dry sense of humour that we've got. On the one hand, we have seaside ribaldry, and other times we have dryness. We'll crack a quip, and it might take somebody half an hour. I mean, I know I do some things on here that I just kind of leave there, and most people don't get it until those that are watching or walking their dog the next day go, bloody hell, that was funny. Oh, right, okay, at least somebody got it. But we're all the same. Why can't we love our country? Why can't we love God's country? Why can't, from the Scottish borders, the Scottish Highlands, if you wish, the Central Belt, and some of the country in Wales and Northern Ireland is as breathtaking can be. North Yorkshire Moors, Devon and Cornwall, from every single quarter and point of every single country in this United Kingdom. They don't want us to get together. They don't want us to stand and say, enough, we don't want this, enough. Because they're not acting in our interests, they're acting in their own. And their own interest is setting up non-governmental organisations, NGOs, which siphon money off that's sent abroad. It's corrupt. Politics is finished. It's corrupt. And it doesn't matter whether it's left wing, right wing, any wing, it's corrupted. I wish Jeremy Corbyn well with his new political party, but we know it's just going to be much of the same. I wish Farage well, because it looks like he's going to be the next government. But you and I know, both, that Farage is going to sell off the NHS. He's going to privatise it. And the newspapers and the Labour Party, and it will be the moot point, it will be the sticking point for a lot of voters. If I vote for Farage, will he get rid of the NHS? Now, he's changed his tune on the illegals. So all they want is they just want power. They just want money. They're not there for the greater good. They're not there for the benefit of you and I. Even though we've voted for them and put them in power, whatever the hue of political party, it doesn't matter. They're all corrupt. Power corrupts absolute power corrupts absolutely. And yet, even though we say, right, we've had enough, and I've told you before, this country, the stoicism, we just sit there. We're being labelled jingoistic. The jingoism and the xenophobia is dripping out of the Great Britain. I would care to differ. I believe we're a very, very empathetic, compassionate and supportive country and tribe, if you wish, and people. But when you push us too far, that's enough. I mean, Starmer doesn't know his arse from his elbow, or the Fun Boy 3 or the Four Tops. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. Touch your toes. Kerry Hawkins says, my mum was very prim and proper, but my daughter, her favourite, could get away with anything. Oh, I mean, I did get away with it. I was the firstborn, so I got away with murders. But again, mummy's boy, daddy's girl. That's the natural way of things. Nicholas says, my brother never knew. He would go off it in pubs, shops. She would bend over and squeeze it. He was like, for fuck's sake, mother. I think I might have come in at the wrong part of the conversation. So I think we'll make a separate video to go up on the channel, because it may put me on radars I don't want to be on. But the Great Britain is an amazing, can I call the Great Britain an animal or a character or a personality? But all of the information that I've just given you is buried deep within us. And it comes from our culture. It comes from sport, if you wish, history, culture, because and even though, you know, for a while in the 70s, football was a terrible thing, we love a bit of banter. And again, the woke variety is saying, oh, you can't say that. That's no. Well, it's just banter. No, you can't say that. Well, Strictly were off the tits on coke. Oh, you can't say that. Well, Chris Evans did in 1995. He said everybody the BBC was off their tits on coke. And now, Strictly Come Dancing, or Strictly Come All Over Your Face, whatever you want to define it as, it's corrupted. But I said to you last night, what Strictly want is everybody talking about it. Talking. Because that gets eyeballs. So I'm going to ask you a question. I did have 3 questions. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Are you going to watch Strictly this year? Because of what you're seeing in the papers. Are you going to watch Strictly this year? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Even Stephen says, Strictly Dance coming. Lord Wuckford, you're wrong. Now that I would pay to see. Dale Steele says, I've never watched Strictly. So they're not bringing everybody saying no. Strictly Curse Dancing. Yeah, Stuart. Nicholas, 1. Got any choice? All right, okay. You're in the same kind of household. I feel your pain, brother. I see you never watched it. Absolutely never, says Irish name, I can't pronounce that. I won't even attempt to, because it'll probably be disrespectful if I get it wrong. Sandra Whittam says, never watched it. Amalia, I haven't seen a thing in the papers, but it's the one tradition we have, read TV. Interesting, because every time, this time of year, there's weeks and weeks and weeks of front page features. They've got so many different things. But like I say, Strictly this year, it's got the fat one, the old one, the talented one, the professional one. It's got all the same kind of characters, because that's what it is. It's an ensemble piece on TV. And it'll be live soon in a month or so's time, all through quarter 4 for the BBC's ratings winnings. But another question, because I'll round the live off in 5 minutes or so. So today, at the press conference, with Sniffy in his suit and the press pack howling questions at the main protagonists, and I think in the email from the anonymous emailer, they said that the cabal of European leaders will be kept in an ante-room, a side room, while the actual press conference was ongoing. But I'm going to ask you a question. 1 for yes, 2 for no. The Donald, 47. He said today that he's stopped 6 wars. Are you now happy that there is peace in Ukraine? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Des Ashton says they call programs for a reason. I'm with you. Any coffee going, says Stuart? Oh, the Obovo. Big Brother 20 years ago was good, I thought. Interesting, Soul Rebel. So, the question I'm asking you, are you happy with peace in Ukraine? And literally everyone, other than Ursula von der Leyen bitch and Starmer and Macron and Merz from Germany, is saying no. Tom Harney's good point. 1, if it holds. J7 rewires, is there peace? Looks like it. Immediate, seemingly. Napoleon blown apart, if it happens. So, you know that cynicism of the Great Britain, it's always underlying the surface. And I think there's a lot of people feel exactly and think exactly the same way, Napoleon blown apart. We want it, we're happy with it, but we just want it to happen quickly. So, and as Trump said at the press conference today, he wants the killing stopped. He wants the killing to stop. I see you, says I don't believe it. Love a bit of cynicism. So thank you for your comments this evening with all of the questions. That one's done. There was a lot tonight that I didn't get to. Let me have a look. I had 9 items on, I think, the technical issues that thankfully have been sorted out. Adam Wells says Zelensky is playing the tough negotiator, as is the Donald and Putin. I mean, the Donald having a B-52 bomber fly overhead, and Putin's like, bloody hell, what's that? That's some manoeuvre. That's power. That's a power move. Oh, yeah. Cuban Pete, great point. Does it mean we get the money back that Starmer gave for the next 100 years? So I was going to talk about, I think I'll leave some of this for tomorrow night now. We will start at 7:15 tomorrow. And I apologise. The technical issues were completely out of my hands, but thank you to everyone that stayed with the live. Smash the likes if you can, just get it over 100 before we say goodnight. I wanted to talk to you about the top 25 shows of the last 25 years. We'll do that tomorrow night. I wanted to talk to you about the EU and what they're at in Hungary. Remember I told you about the 6 central banks that the Rothschilds want? Syria they've got, Iraq they've got, they want Venezuela, Hungary, Iran, North Korea, Russia, China. And now they're gunning for Hungary. The EU is. But I'll give you more detail about that tomorrow night. The mainstream press won't talk about it because it's too contentious. It's a bit naughty. Dave Johnson, you need to rip out your microphone and plug it back in again. Well, I haven't got a microphone, it's my phone. But I have got a Yeti microphone that I use for my broadcasting, which is very nice, very nice. Kerry Hawkins, thank you, Adrian. Sorry I was late in tonight. Yeah, you slacker. Where were you? We were in the beer garden and everything. We nearly just gave it all up and went in the beer garden to get sloshed. But YouTube seems to have fixed it all. So I see you has been great, people. Have a beer now, Aid. Oh, Rusty Mouse. Yeah, I think I will actually. So we're going to talk about Lucy Letby tomorrow. Charlie 19, the data. I've got some really interesting information to give you. Israel, the truth about what happened in Vegas, the banks and the EU, and lots of stuff. And we should get around to talking about Tower Hamlets Council, although by tomorrow it's been in the news for 24 hours. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, as ever, your indulgence. And thank you for indulging me tonight and staying with the channel while we dealt with those common YouTube live technical issues, because everybody was at it. Remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, tell people about this channel, tell people about the lives, Sunday through Wednesday. There's lots of new stuff coming that I have planned. I'm not going to give it away until it starts. But wherever you go, whatever you do, Be well. Stay safe. Don't forget the Battenberg. It's always good to have emergency Battenberg. Never mind in the body of the Kirk. And remember, the theatre of the mind. It's not a show. It's a mission. And we go again. Tuesday night, 7:30. See you tomorrow night with lots and lots and lots of insight. See you tomorrow.